What's up, savvy expats? After living in the Philippines for going on 5 years now, I have intentionally narrowed down and evaluated the 5 things I genuinely cannot live here without. If one of these items goes missing or is dysfunctional, it's almost as if this perfect universe I've been living in spins out of orbit. And yes, while it may sound like I'm exaggerating, maybe a little bit, I know that this list will highly resonate with you. And as you watch this episode, you may find that you, as a retired expat or a nomad, will also not be able to live here in the Philippines without these items either. That said, enough talk and let's hop straight into this. So, kicking off this list, and number 1 and the first item we can obviously not live here without as an expat is US dollars or foreign currency. I know this goes without saying and it's a must when living here, but this far supersedes every other item on this list and is by far the most important. I've spoken to hundreds of expats, my clientele included, and I always ask them, what brings you to the Philippines, let alone Southeast Asia in general? And bear in mind, a lot of these individuals are corporate executives that can practically live anywhere in the world. But the most common answer I get, which is 10 out of 10 times, is because of the favorable exchange rates and the reasonable cost of living. The fact we can stretch our dollar out here with the 55-to-1 favorable exchange rates, also paired with the fact that it's a predominantly English-speaking country, makes moving to the Philippines a no-brainer compared to the neighboring Southeast Asian countries for a lot of expats. Because yes, Vietnam is cheaper, so is Thailand, so is Cambodia, but let's face it, living in the Philippines offers a closer level of cultural familiarity to most Westerners compared to these other countries. And so that now begs the question, Evan, would you have lived in the Philippines if you weren't earning in US dollars? And the harsh but raw truth is, no, not a chance. And I can imagine the same would be the case for you as well. Now, we moved outside because it's a beautiful day out here in BGC, but as I was saying, the sole reason why many expats actually move to the Philippines is because of the fact that their Western income affords them a higher quality lifestyle here than it would in the States. I know you always hear me talk about the concept of lifestyle arbitrage and geo arbitrage, and the best way I can describe it is by pertaining it to my own personal situation. Living in Chicago, right? What does that $2,000 per month really afford you, especially even in the downtown area? For most on this budget, you'd barely be scraping by, merely surviving, not really living. But you take that same $2,000 and bring it over here to the Philippines, and boy oh boy, does your money stretch so much further here. You go from being in the freezing cold, paying $18 for a meal at McDonald's, working 24/7 on the hamster wheel, the same routine day after day, to basking in tropical weather. Your time is freed up because you can actually afford having days of leisure. You can go on weekend trips to the beach. And now you have a new life of exhilaration, yet far less stress. And that's essentially what arbitraging your lifestyle looks like, and it's a pleasure to experience that firsthand on the other side of my move. Now, of course, a very valid argument lies in how do you actually earn a solid Western income while living in Southeast Asia? Because we can't deny, most individuals that move from the US to the Philippines will experience an income hit, especially if you're still working. Common criticism that I always used to get, especially back in the early stages here in the Philippines, was, Evan, wait till you run out of money and soon enough you'll be booking your flight back to the States. And look, the way I see it is that in today's day and age, you can make a solid income anywhere in the world as long as you have access to the internet and this right here. I've personally done it, and so have countless other digital nomads. But an alternative route would be just to get onboarded to a job at an international company that will allow you remote work from anywhere in the world. This can be freelance work, this can be accounting, whatever your profession may be, but the important thing is that you get paid in foreign currency while living in the Philippines. Now, the second thing I can't live in the Philippines without, that is Grab. In a nutshell, Grab is basically the Uber of Southeast Asia, except with more affordable rates. And so to say that the Grab app makes your life a world of easier here in the Philippines would be an understatement. And if that wasn't the case, I wouldn't have been using it consistently for the past 5 years now. And now, you may be thinking, Evan, why don't you just hail down a taxi? Well, in my experience, Grab is a far better option in many regards. Of course, one of them being is the convenience factor. Being able to book a driver from wherever you are is convenience that is unbeatable. Not to mention the predictable rates. We always talk about how common it is to get skin taxed as a foreigner in the Philippines. And one of the most common ways that you'll get skin taxed as a foreigner in the Philippines is via the taxi drivers. As soon as they see that you're not from here, the price will immediately get jacked up by a couple hundred pesos. Which, yes, in the grand scheme of things really isn't a big deal, and it's not gonna put a huge dent in your wallet. But why go through that kind of hassle when you could just book a Grab and see the fair prices before you even get on? But I will tell you that the only caveat I see with Grab is that booking a driver during peak rush hour, especially during the weekends, is very far and few in between when it comes to finding someone available. And in that case, for me, that's the only time I really resort to a taxi. Because as you know, you have this tropical weather of the Philippines paired with the weak taxi AC units, and it's just a recipe for a sweaty disaster. Meanwhile, with most Grabs, the AC units are much stronger, the rides are cleaner, smells better, just because of the higher quality cars or rides that you get. Moving on to the third thing I cannot live in the Philippines without, that is money remittance apps like Wise and Remitly. When it comes to getting access to your US funds in the Philippines, you can go about it in several different ways. Like most, when you initially arrive in the Philippines without a local Philippine bank account, you're most likely going to be paying with your US debit card. And unless you have no international fee benefits on your card, this becomes an issue as international ATM and transaction fees begin to progressively add up. Now, as a foreigner, upon arrival in the Philippines, you will have to shoulder these international ATM and transaction fees until you do open up your local Philippine bank account. And in order to do this, you have to be in the country for a minimum of 59 days in order to qualify for your ACR card. That stands for the Alien Certificate of Registration card, which is required as a foreigner to obtain if you stay in the country beyond 59 days. And so once you've got this card, you now basically have all you need to open up your local Philippine bank account other than your documents. And so for me personally, when I need to get access to my US funds, I will transfer it in lump sum from my B of A to my local Philippine bank account using a money remittance app like Wise. But the important thing to remember is not to transfer anything more than 10K USD, as it can potentially get flagged as money laundering here in the Philippines by law. And I will also mention that another solid saver for me is getting an international travel rewards card with B of A, as that saves me all the ATM and international transaction fees. Now, for the fourth thing I cannot live in the Philippines without, that is my network and connections here. One of the biggest struggles with moving to any new country is having a blank slate with your network. Where do I find a cleaner? How do I find a trustworthy realtor? Where do I go for my banking and visa work? You know, the daily logistical work that you need to get done for a successful and smooth transition to the country. And so, after having lived here for a decent amount of time now, it took plenty of scams and having to sift through double-intentioned individuals to now have the trustworthy network I have today. Today, if I need a trustworthy driver, maid, realtor, doctor, immigration and visa specialist, caregiver, you name it, it's all at my fingertips. Because having a strong network and community to be integrated into makes your life here in the Philippines so much easier. Here in the Philippines, to say that it's all about who you know is an understatement. When it comes to getting things done here fast and efficiently, you have to be tapped in with the right network of people. Otherwise, and just a heads up, you will come across people that will skin tax you and try to take advantage of you just because of the mere fact that you're a foreigner. And of course, not to say that this is the case with all of the Philippines in general, but just like anywhere in the world, it is something that you'll have to look out for. And so, if you want access to my network and a relocation service that can handle the entire A to Z logistics and processes of your move for you, book a call with me in the link in the description down below, and I'll see if we're a good fit to work together. If we are, I'll create a tailored solution for you that will ultimately save you plenty of time, effort, and money in the long run in this next chapter of your life. And now, the last thing I cannot live in the Philippines without, nor can you, is none other than AC, or what we call in the Philippines, aircon. When living in tropical, hot, and depending on the season, very muggy Philippines, your lifeline in this country is the aircon. And so, of all your utilities, you already know that your highest and most expensive expense will be your electricity bill here. Coming from cold, windy city Chicago, you can already imagine how hard it was for me to adjust to the Philippine heat here. In the beginning, there'd be times where I'm just walking outside for just 10 minutes and I'm already drenching in sweat. But today, not that I ever feel like I'll be fully used to the Philippine heat, but I will say it's much easier to cope with as time went on. So much so to the point where if I were to go back to Chicago, I'd probably shrivel up because of the cold, unlike before. And so there you have it, Savvy Expat. That is the 5 quintessential things that I cannot live in the Philippines without. If you're planning on moving to the Philippines and you don't know where to start and you need guidance, I have a free 15-step checklist resource in the link in the description down below. This checklist runs you through the crucial steps that you need to take for successful and smooth transition to the Philippines. From banking and visas to finding your ideal rental unit, this checklist will help you navigate the initial steps of your move. And so, thank you for watching Savvy Expats. As always, it was a pleasure, and we'll see you in the next video. God bless. And you may be thinking, Evan, why not just hail down a taxi? I feel like I'm in New York here.